Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of our First Impressions series. My favorite thing to do of diving into a publisher problem, a partner that's coming along to solve that problem, and really just kind of talk about the evolution of a marketplace. And it's funny. I'm thinking about, and Phil, we're going to touch on this. We did a podcast a number of months ago, and online video has definitely seen a change over this past year. It's something for us to talk about because it is such a vital part for so many publishers in terms of revenue and so forth. And we got to figure this out. We got to keep talking about it. And so I'm looking forward to this conversation. So I've got with me Phil from STN, and I've got Michael from Adams Publishing. I'm going to turn things over to Phil here for a second to just kind of talk about STN, make sure everyone that doesn't know is in the know, and get kind of how you guys are going out to market. So Phil, let's turn it to you.
Thanks, Rob, and excited to be here today. It is a great segue to the podcast we had, so I'll give you this quick intro for everyone, and once we got that, we can dive into the conversation. So let me share my screen here. Here we go. So really, getting into STN, I want to give everyone a bit of a quick overview of what we're all about. I mean, STN, simply, we're an online video platform supporting publishers. And what makes us really unique in the marketplace is the breadth of our content library and our ability to basically create or deliver relevant content for pretty much every article that publishers are putting out there. And when you look at the marketplace, it has evolved tremendously. And I want to get on a few slides why relevant content is so important. We've talked about this now for many years. Everything points to end of 2024 where the cookie might be dead. We don't know, but it points to that direction. So as cookie is going away, being able to target audiences through relevant content is going to become more and more important. So reaching a sports fan through sports highlights, reaching a cooking enthusiast to recipe with video of recipes. So the death of cookie is putting more emphasis on that. IAB rules, Rob, you and I talked about that a lot during the podcast we had a few months ago. If you remember, at that time, I was a little bit on a rant because IAB basically said you're either in-stream, which is user-initiated with sound, or everything else is called outstream. And at the time, I was telling you, I felt that publishers that were creating a good, relevant environment were getting punished by these new rules. They actually created subcategories of outstream, and it really created one accompanying content where they're rewarding publishers that are creating contextually relevant video, even though it's sound off. So that was, I think, a good win throughout the year. And now, instead of punishing 90% of the traffic, you now have roughly 50% of the traffic that sits into those two categories, and another 50% that is what I would call like really pure outstream. So why is it important at the end of the day? The context is you want to please your audience. You want to please the brands that are buying your ads. And once you deliver that great environment, you get rewarded ultimately with better CPMs by the buying community. So putting this in context, and how does that relate really to STN? We created really a platform over the last 10 years that really has, I would say, like the best of many worlds. We've aggregated, we started in sports. Sports is our kind of bread and butter, where originally we aggregated like basically the top leagues and generated like what I would call like a pretty robust library of content that was exclusive in the sports arena. And then over the last 4 years, kind of beefed up that library by adding just about everything else from news, entertainment, business, and so on. So we got now 250 content providers. We have over 2 million videos. We ingest on any given day up to 5,000 videos. So it's very, very robust to give a newsroom a lot of content to chew on. And we're now distributing that across like basically tier one publishers. You got a small sample here, but publishers that we've worked for a very long time, like APG or the New York Post, and added this year like new publisher to our roster, like Fortune or A360 Media. And then, of course, we monetize that both with direct and programmatic money. And I put the emphasis on direct, and the reason we generate on any given month up to 70% of our revenue with direct partners is because they love that contextual environment. They love that high quality video, and they're able to turn around and basically monetize their work with their agencies, sorry, to monetize that great contextually relevant content. We have been rewarded with tons of awards over the last few years, but the one that I emphasize a lot when I talk to publishers is our Google certified partnership. We're one of a few that have been rewarded by that certification by Google. And when I talk to a publisher, the emphasis I have here is our ability with Google to work on core web vitals. So publishers that are concerned around speed of page, making sure that the video player is not slowing things down, we're able to work extensively with publishers and optimize their core web vitals. We have a team entirely dedicated to that. If I have one slide to talk about STN, here it is. Basically what we have is a phenomenal library of content that we're able to monetize with a lot of premium direct demand. And what helps publisher turn that into significant revenue is our tech. And I'll get into my final slide in a second, where Smart Match allows us to automatically match a page with the most relevant video. So that helps scale video across the site without having, newsrooms have been unfortunately decimated over the last like 10, 12 years, where you don't have the amount of people you used to have to put video on every single article. That's where Smart Match really comes in. And, you got my little Smart Match video here. And what Smart Match allows you to do ultimately, you can scale the site with the code. You can basically integrate it right into your CMS. And every time you publish an article, the Smart Match will basically go through your page, read the content of the page, and will basically do a match between some of the keywords that are inside an article with, of course, the metadata that we have inside the videos. Everyone now talks about AI. I mean, it's probably been the biggest topic, certainly in our industry and many industries this year. I love to say that Smart Match for us was actually up and running as a test in 2016, and we launched it in 2017. So it's not something that we kind of jumped on the bandwagon in the last 12 months. We've been at it for many years, and has worked out really, really well for our publishers in terms of scaling. And last slide, how does that work for a publisher ultimately? I joke all the time, you can have the tech AI to match video with an article, but guess what? If you don't have the library to do that, you're never going to get a match. I don't care how good your AI is. So that's the advantage we have with the strength of our library. I'm excited to have Mike here because he's in the local space. So this is a place where we have more challenges to get relevant video, and we worked with his team to bring solutions. But you're seeing some numbers here from some publishers where when you have contextually relevant video, people spend more time on page. Guess what? You're interested by the video, you'll watch it, you'll stick longer. We have a lot of data showing increased page use. People are coming back. It helps social share. You got a good video, people want to share it across their network. And ultimately, of course, it has a significant impact on revenue. So that's our story, Rob, in a couple minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah, let's dive into a conversation, and I'll ask anyone that's viewing us recording this live. Feel free to use the chat to put your questions in. I may or may not get to them. I'm gonna, here I am. I'm all dressed up. I'm ready for a conversation. I'm gonna spend some time with you guys. It's holiday season. Time to dive into this stuff. So Phil, thank you for that. I'm going to certainly come back to you on some questions about, again, the evolution. And since our last recording last time, we got to talk to each other. Mike, a real pleasure to connect with you. Let's start really with Adams Publishing, and let's just talk about, explain that, what Adams Publishing, what you encompass. I know it's a lot. So,
Yeah.
but give us a little bit of that core, and then let's kind of dive into where this comes into it.
Yeah, so Adams Publishing has evolved over the last several years into a larger network of community minded, community oriented, community cultured news organizations. We've got over 100 different markets across the country. We've got some larger markets like Nampa, Boise, Bozeman, right? Some places in really across 15 different states that we've got all kinds of properties and markets. So we've got websites, right? We've got the legacy solutions out there, not just on digital, but also in print and niche and magazines and things like that. And when it all comes down to audience, right? And so from an audience perspective, we found over the years, which is why I love, because I've been in other larger organizations before on the news side over my career. And what I love about the Adams side is that we're still retaining that community audience feel, right? So we're not reliant as much on the metropolitan transit audience, right? The audiences where there's not much allegiance. In our markets, we've got a strong allegiance to our websites. Obviously, the legacy print reader, magazine reader we've had over the years is still there as well, but more so on the digital audience side. So what Phil and STN have done for us, just in really the last couple of years, we've been working closely with them, is bring us an opportunity to provide that local community audience with something pretty relevant that we don't need to provide on our end, or that we don't have to provide on our end from a resource perspective. So really, to encompass the answer to that question, we are a company that has evolved to sell everything when it comes to solutions to a business owner. But when it comes to an audience in our community, we're providing them now something through our website audience that they can't get elsewhere.
And so in model, and again, I think I've mentioned to you in the past, I was at Advanced Digital, which is local. And it's funny, and I think about how with Advanced, I was like, well, we don't have the big metro areas, but you're talking even smaller areas, right? And there's an aspect of that is just a challenge from a size portion to also a sales portion, right? So just in terms of like the advertisers that you're selling, the community that you've created and you wanting to capture and so forth. And that's a harder model, quite honestly, right? Than others and so forth. So what's the importance to you to have, video content, not only just from a audience perspective of showing them something they might want to see, but also that you have an additional revenue resource that comes to you?
Yeah, I call it revenue while you sleep, right? So we've got their fresh, relevant content. As Phil just eloquently said, it's matched, right? And so I'll be honest with you, there have been some times over our two and a half years that we've gotten together with Jess and Phil at STN. They've been tremendous at answering the need to make things even more relevant than they are. What happens is, how do we know this stuff when it's not relevant to somebody locally? Let's say you're in northern Wisconsin or Minnesota, and you're not seeing Minnesota Vikings sports content from last night's game or this week's NFL breaking news or something regarding that team. Instead, you're seeing Seattle Seahawks or somebody else, right? Well, when people are calling the attention to that and letting us know about that, that tells me right there we've got an audience that's looking for that content on a regular basis. And so again, with this video partnership, we have the ability to evolve and pivot on a regular basis to make that content as local or regional as possible. And I will also tell you that having this resource to have on our sites has been great, because again, our newsrooms do what they do best, and that is coverage of the local community, whether it be news, business, sports, entertainment. Obviously opinion is still, an editorial is still big on on our radar. But to have the video to be I will call it a supplemental piece to what we offer everybody every day.
Yeah, I think that's, one of the things I love about that again is that it's that feedback loop you have with your community that they let you know, right? And that means, by the way, they're engaging with the video, they're engaging with the content, and they see that there's a connection. And I also, just to kind of read it to your point, and Phil, to throw it to you on this, right? Which is, to your point, Mike, this is an ongoing conversation, right? Relevance is not a once solved type of thing. This is kind of a thing that evolves over time. Phil, how hard are you working at this? Again, I love the fact that you're not on the AI bandwagon. You're kind of doing it before, but it doesn't mean you plug it in and then just go like, well, that'll be awesome. We'll just see where that goes. How are you trying to work with someone like Mike to make sure the content is as relevant as possible?
Yeah, it's I think it starts, and Mike has been good with that, with his team, to like share the feedback, right? So hearing back from the newsroom around, hey, we don't like this is terrible, or this is great, we love this part, and kind of like take that feedback and take it from there. Like one of the thing really has been interesting with Mike and his team is, we launched a couple of years ago our ability to create content straight from a page by ingesting the content, the data, pictures, but also leverage data around weather as an example to really create like hyper local content. So this is a place where there's a lot of like feedback coming from the newsroom around, hey, we think this is great, or hey, tweak it that way, or this is really relevant to our team, and then just kind of take that feedback and adjust as you go to take it from there. Like I look at some of our weather stuff that we've done on the AI content. Definitely a lot of feedback coming from Mike and his team has helped us kind of like turn the product into what it is today.
Yeah, I've seen that in your weather content, in certain environments, and it does have this kind of play of just like sometimes you kind of want to see it versus just having to read it, and it's there, and you engage with it, and so forth. And I could see kind of having to kind of work from it from that perspective. Mike, would you, in terms of your editorial to your monetization side of these things, how has that part worked in terms of, again, working with editors to understanding that you want to do as much as you can to monetize the site? How do you navigate those waters? I think a lot of publishers are always trying to find the right balance between those two.
Right.
I hear
Right.
that laugh. I know that laugh.
Yeah. So, from the get-go, we involved one of my colleagues. So I oversee digital, she oversees editorial for the company. So we both have similar roles, mine over advertising and marketing, hers over the content side. So shortly after we launched, she was very vocal about being involved in, hey, wait a minute, we'd like to see this here or there, or, if we're going to do this in article placement, for example, can we be matching as close as we can to relevancy on the content to what's in article, right? So, and Phil will probably echo this as well. He's been involved, he and Jess have been involved with our executive leadership on the editorial side. Even separately from me, they have a pipeline to STN as well. They've gotten in touch with them a few times and talked about, hey, we'd like to see this enhanced, right, or this changed up a little bit. So, and I'll also say that from a placement perspective, right? So our partners at STN have also, over time in these 2.5 years, on a regular basis said, hey, what we're finding that this is a better user experience if it were placed here, or and even better to my ears, we're gonna help you monetize it even better if we do this, right? So constantly along the lines, I think it's a good mix of it's an editorial side to our business that we've got on our websites. The other side that I'll touch on real quick, because I haven't said this yet, is we just went into AI video about 2-3 months ago. We have a new AI video solution, a self-serve platform that we sell advertising to. So this is separate from STN, but the availability of the STN video player on our sites to use our own locally built and locally sold AI video to our advertisers, we can place that with the video player that Phil and his team already have running with us. And so that's sort of we haven't tapped into that yet. That's on our radar screen. And we've been talking about it for a long time, but now that we're selling a lot more AI videos to business owners in our communities, our local reps are, we now have another place on our sites to monetize that too.
I mean, that's such a huge opportunity. Again, I go back 15 years since being selling at local, and we were trying to figure out how do you get someone their own commercial, their own video, because they just you just love to see your business reach that stage where you're in that video spotlight, right? And
Right.
so that sounds like an exciting piece. And then the fact that you have created the inventory to work on that, right? So in other words, without having relevant video related to the story, you're going to struggle to get even the numbers for those small advertisers to see it. So it's kind of, you have to solve for both problems at the same time, the demand and the supply when you're doing that.
Yeah.
Phil, was there, Mike mentioned that again, you worked with some things on this. I was going to go a different direction, but feel free to Phil, drive in where you want to go on this. But the, one of the parts that popped in my mind as Mike was talking is, you mentioned this in the opening around selling direct and the fact that you do in fact go out and sell direct. And I think there's an importance to that, right? Because I think there's an aspect that, like, if you're going out and selling direct, you're representing and you're making sure those brands show up in good environments, right? So I think that there's an aspect of, talking to Mike and saying, like, this is what's going to perform well for them. And I think that's a really good educational process. But it also kind of means it's like, this isn't about just getting an ad there. It's got to add relevance, and all of those pieces kind of play together into just one kind of solution. How important is that direct piece and selling direct to STN and then to your clients?
So I'll start and I'll let Mike take over after, because I think Adams does a lot of really cool, like I'm excited to hear you're going live with that AI video, Mike. This is awesome. Like you guys have been very creative. I mean, look, the importance of direct is simple. Like that's the way to have like really premium CPM, right? You're not battling to try to increase your open exchange from 5 to 550 because you've optimized. You can go from $5 to 25, 30, $40 because you're selling direct. And ultimately, what's the advantage of that? And I'll quote our head of sales, Dan. Dan calls that all the time appointment viewing, right? So if I fall into an article in Boise on one of the site from Adams, like I'm someone that lives there, and I've got a purpose to go there. And if I feed you a good video and I'm engaged with it, like this has a lot of value for an advertiser. So if I'm a local advertiser, if I buy into and I create my video content using Mike's offering, and then suddenly my content or my ad lives right in my community, it's very, very relevant. So direct, at the end of the day, this is a way to supercharge your revenue and not be fully dependent on optimizing your programmatic stack, which I think is very important, but you'll never multiply your CPMs 5, 6, or 10x programmatically. It's through direct.
I think that's right. Mike, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, what we've offered so far with our AI video that we're selling our local business owners is the ability for us to create that AI video for them. Usually it's done in 2.5 minutes. That's how quick it's done. And be able to then serve it or fulfill it across programmatic, social media, or CTV. Next up is what can we do to maximize the video player that STN has there and sell it into that portal, right? So we're still yet to do that piece of it. But the exciting piece is that we're not running out of opportunities, right?
Well, and that also goes to just really the sale, right? The fact is that, small, medium businesses, they don't, again, whether they have the capability to create video or not, some of what they often look to for someone like an Adams is to help get that one piece and get it as far across as many channels as possible, right? They're looking for that audience and whatever. you almost play an agency role in that respect,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's a part, and to sit there and try to steer them away from video would be a mistake. So there's an aspect of going like by having the video piece, but then again, having some video supply of your own means you're not putting this stuff just on TikTok and YouTube and letting them make more money, and you get that little piece owned and operated. You control the environment, you control those particular pieces. I think obviously adds up nicely, adds up nicely. Phil, one thing I wanted to touch with you on is, as you said, again, you're from the podcast, and it was really an interesting time, right? Because the IAB standard had come out, it sat there for a while. A lot of people just let it go, like it wasn't a thing, and then suddenly it became a thing, and suddenly it was almost. And I think your numbers are right. I look at my own inventory, and if I were to sit there and say audio off, video related to the content is suddenly outstream, 90% of my video has been put into the lowest potential way to perceive it, and could be devastating. I mean, could quite honestly be a reason to not create video content because it just wouldn't play that and so forth. But I feel like we were able to kind of get some people fired up on this topic, you amongst them, to actually sit there and start to have the conversations at the right level to start to distinguish those particular pieces. I don't know if there's anything, Phil, I'm almost searching for a question here, but I know that this was something like how important that decision was. And, again, are these conversations ongoing and so forth, but like, what's your perception of like what's happened this year for online video and the importance of starting to getting it right?
Look, I think where things have landed, like, make some sense now. Like, if you remember at the time I was telling you, and that comment applies to Mike and Adams. It's like, if you've done a really good job of creating, engaging video that is relevant to the editorial you are writing about, you were basically getting completely penalized. So now by what they've done, you now basically reward 40% of the inventory in the marketplace by, creating a different category, passing that information. It's very clear. Google jumped on the bandwagon, I think 2 months ago, that now, they're going to be able to pass that info. So now you're like buyers are going to be able to see what they're getting and all of that. Of course, we all know that the trade desk kind of jumped on this really, really early on. So I think it's good. I think we fall at a place where publishers that have done the right thing over the last few years are not being penalized. And I think that as people look now at the next few years, and we talk about I think the next big thing is when the cookie goes away. Again, it's like, okay, how do I, create like blocks of audience that are looking at specific content that I can reach through advertising? That's the next phase. So everyone that has been focused on contextually relevant video content is not penalized anymore. And hopefully, as things evolve further in 2024, 2025, the next step is, CPMs are going to bounce back, because the real outstream inventory is going to get penalized, and the good inventory is going to get propped up.
Yeah, I mean, it may not get the same CPMs as we were getting before, but you know what? There's an aspect of this of going like, this is some of the transparency that we all have to do, and to say like, again, some of this relevant content is germane to the story, and some of it is just relevant, and that's obviously better than just any old video ad, especially if there's no content behind it, right? Again, this is all about the relationship with the user, right? Which, Mike, is super important to you. And then, of course, the advertisers that they're getting. I mean, that's the balance we all play as publishers. We're going to start to wrap up, so I want you guys to think about some final thoughts. But Phil, we got a question that kind of came in here, and I want to see if I can frame this for you. Any specific video elements that should be included as a base model for STN video? Usually 30 to 60-second clips seem to perform the best. Were there aspects of video clips that really should be focused on to better serve viewers?
That's a good question. I mean, look, our experience is definitely like the average publisher. It's short form. Like, people are in the article sometimes not for very long. You want to give them a soundbite, something that they can watch, quick in and out. So again, whether it's a piece of news, sports highlights, the latest in entertainment, the red carpet from yesterday, way better to have short clips, easier to consume, and candidly too, from a monetization standpoint, you're able to feed, ultimately more pre-roll ads. So instead of having 5 minutes on the red carpets, well, break that down in 30 to 45-second clips, and people are engaged with more video, but you're also able to better monetize that audience. So definitely short clip is the way to go to drive better engagement and ultimately more money.
Mike, do you have any experience with that in terms of like length or what you find to be the right kind of mix on that front, and from an editorial perspective or from an advertising perspective?
Yeah, so our best practices across the company, because we have we have over 300 sellers, right, in a lot of markets, and some smaller than others. And but the best practice is blanketed everywhere, and that is if we're doing AI video for somebody, it needs to be 15 to 30 seconds tops, and I'm going to say on the 15-second side. And that's just to be served across certainly things like programmatic, right? That we sell in a lot of our markets. We've got a lot of different networks we sell across. And then if we're going to be doing across social media, again, similar, right? 30 to 60 seconds tops, right? When we're doing something on YouTube, we can get up there in the minute range, right? But yeah, I would say 90% of our customers are doing 15 to 30-second spots.
Got it. Fantastic. Great. Well, look, I mean, again, it has been 2023 has been a big year for online video. It definitely has been a big part of the conversations we had at Beeler.Tech. Publishers trying to, again, figure out ways to monetize, partnerships to have, ways to get more content, drive engagement, audience, page views. I mean, again, it's more, whatever you could do, more, every lever, turn it on and so forth. Online video has been a key component of that. Phil, you've obviously kind of mentioned that the third-party cookie going away, that could be 2024. I think it's going to be a transformative year no matter what. The new normal is there's no normal. We're all just
Yeah.
nose to the grindstone. There's no getting easier work. We're getting this AI stuff, but it doesn't feel like we're working any less. So I think that's going to be one of the underlying themes there. But I am curious from both of you gentlemen, like anything you're looking forward to or any thoughts on 2024 in terms of your plans or anything along the lines of what you think in terms of online video and so forth. Mike, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I mean, for us, our priorities next year, as a lot of media companies are, right, not just in the publishing space, but everywhere, is to grow audience, right? And that goes in line with the cookies deprecation, right? So our priority next year is to grow not only digital subscribers, but also audience to our websites, to our content, grow more advertising base when it comes to video, and that's why we came up with the AI video platform. We partnered with a self-serve platform vendor, and they have proven to be very, very customer service oriented, made it turnkey for us, and now we're out there selling AI video to SMBs. And so outside of audience and AI video monetization, I would say the next piece of our growth next year is thinking about in our markets, who are the people that can cross over, right, and become a loyal user of our solutions, and that includes content too. So for us, it ties back to one word: audience, right? So and
Audience.
yeah, and advertisers want that, right? So I mean, from a advertiser perspective, if we're giving them more audience, and that's across social, our O&O, our legacy stuff, if we're giving them more audience on an ongoing basis, we're going to retain them longer too.
The future is being audience forward, being first. That's the only way to protect yourself as a publisher. The advertisers will follow where the eyeballs go. So I think you're right on that. Phil, any last thoughts?
Yeah, like the part I'm excited for next year at our end is we've got a team dedicated to Smart Match, our AI player, and we're working on the next generation where it's going to be even better in terms of matches. When you get in categories like news, sometimes it's hard because a specific tone of an article or a specific personality can live across like different categories, like, you know, politics, sports, or entertainment without.
Hey, NFL plans are now Swifties, right? Or it's the
Yeah,
other way
yeah, there you
around. I'm
go.
not
Yeah,
sure.
100.
I
Yeah,
don't
and
understand,
it's
but
actually,
it has become a thing. You're right. What
it's
AI
actually
can solve for Taylor Swift's love life, it just isn't there yet. The computing isn't there.
it's actually a very good one, because you're right. She's at a game versus concert, like, you know, like the match can sometimes not be the right one because it's not picking the exact video. So that's the next generation, which ultimately, for me, will do a few things. Better matches, give editorial team a lot more options between what I would call, like, you know, video content versus AI content. And ultimately, as we, you know, the cookie goes away, just like being way better at segmenting the content for advertisers so you can target specific content in real time. So lots on the hopper, but that's the piece that gets me pretty fired up for 2024.
Phil, last question for you. If someone is interested in talking STN and talking about, you know, again, the player, the content, some of the things that you're doing specifically, what's the best way to reach you guys?
Reach out on LinkedIn. Obviously, easy to find me there, or go on our website, stnvideo.com, and you'll have all the info there to if you want to browse and ultimately get in touch with us. Our team will be more than happy to jump in and follow up with the crew after.
Great. Well, that wraps up another First Impressions. Mike, Phil, I really enjoyed the conversation. Mike, I'm looking forward to further ones. I definitely want to talk to you. I talked to Phil enough, but I think I want to talk to you further. Sorry, last shot of the year, Phil. I saved it for you.
That's good.
Anyway, I really enjoyed the conversation, and I think there's some real nuanced information there for everyone. So thank you, everyone, and thanks to my panel here. And it's all good luck in 2024. Let's do it.